Hi, I'm Bhumi Kumari here with
Eitan Rubenstein.
and welcome to Live from M5. Today we're here with Mr. Stewart, the principal of our school, and
Yeah, so for the first question is...
Thank you a lot for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about my journey here at Rockland High.
Yeah, totally. So my first question that I have for you is, how did you come to the decision of retiring this year?
That's a good question. I'm 63 right now. I'll be 64 in June. So a lot of it was just where I'm at in life, age-wise. If I could continue to do the job and lead a balanced life, which is almost impossible, but really maintain my physical health, and really it comes down to mind, body, and spirit, kind of my driving mantra, as a lot of people, I would continue to do it. I love my job.
Yeah.
I love what I do. It's just as you get older, you have to put more deliberate or more intentional time toward mainly the physical part, but that really leads into the spiritual part for me. And so those two factors were the main one. I thought I was going to retire last year when I came in to start the year. I really had plans. I got in here and I really found a lot more juice for the job. And, really, I think it was the purpose piece. What's my purpose going to be after being the principal?
Yeah.
That kind of motivated me to really kind of pursue that energy. I've always been one to follow the energy, and everything else will kind of come to fruition and put you where you're supposed to be. So I did one more year, talked a lot about it, and then this year I was pretty sure I was going to retire. I announced in December just to make it official, and then really smooth the transition for whoever that next principal is going to be.
Yeah, totally.
but yeah, just like going off of that, what just like led to you becoming principal here at Rockland High and just like brought you into education and brought all of that drive for you to like come to where you are now?
That's a good question, and in this one I may get a little long-winded because my story isn't maybe the traditional story. I grew up in a family of educators. My father was a school superintendent, and after high school I swore I would never go into education. And so I was a athlete, basketball player, and I just wanted to keep playing basketball as long as I could. I was very short-sighted when I was younger. So I went to Sierra College for a couple of years, played basketball, and then toward the end of the second year realized my ambitions were limited at that point. And I got a job at UPS here in Rockland. My college roommate was a football player at Sierra College, and he got me a job there. This was the same year that the 49ers came on campus, so
Oh, wow.
it was kind of a big deal over there for the football program. Anyway, I got a job at UPS, and then I stayed there for 11 years working part-time at first, and then got a full-time driving job. Did that for about 3.5 years, and then went into management for 6 years. And so it was a great education of what I didn't want to do with my life. And then I realized that maybe that education background that my parents were trying to get me to go into had some merit. And so I went back to school, and about the time I was finishing up, Rockland High School was opening up. And so I got my foot in the door coaching basketball in the school's second year. So I started here in 1994.
Oh, so you've been here since beginning.
Well, the second year,
Yeah.
but pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the following year when they were going to be hiring and I would be eligible, finishing my credential, I got hired. My first classroom was in R23 in the back. They completed construction the day before school started, and I had zero furniture teaching my first class.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. So I've been here a while.
What class did you initially like first start
It
teaching?
was social studies.
Social
I
studies?
taught freshman geography and world history.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So from just like being a teacher, how did you become a part of admin? Was there like something you wanted to like change in the school, or like what did you want to like bring that just like led you to like?
So just as with many kind of pieces in my life, and that mantra that I talked about, following the energy and the path is going to present itself for you. It was the same thing with leadership positions, and throughout my life, I've found myself in more and more leadership positions to the point where I can't ignore it or couldn't ignore it anymore. And so then I just started pursuing it. It was the same with education, just as it was at UPS. I started out as working part-time, went and drove, and then became part of the management team. The same with teaching. Once and coaching, actually coaching to teaching to finding myself in more and more leadership positions with teacher leadership. Went back and got my master's in educational administration. My project, which is kind of a pseudo thesis, was on the role and development of teacher leaders, which I still believe today that's probably the most important part of a school, and a school culture is developing that teacher leadership, and one of the reasons why Rockland High School is so successful. And as I found myself in more and more those positions, I remember I was sitting in an interview that I didn't have a path toward because I hadn't done my master's degree yet. And so I went back and got my master's degree, and then I was actually an assistant principal to 2 middle schools for a couple years.
Okay.
First year while I was teaching one class at Rockland High, and that was in 2009. And then the following year was just back and forth, full-time administrator and really disciplinarian at both middle schools. That was during the recession, and they were downsizing, so that opened up an opportunity for me to do that. And then after that, I was hired back at Rockland High School to be the assistant principal and athletic director, because those used to be a combined position.
Okay.
And then did that for 4.5 years, and then after that was appointed principal almost 10 years ago to the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like since 2015 then?
Yeah, that's when I was appointed. So my first school year was 15-16, and then we're going to finish up in 25. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so what have been some of like your favorite memories that you've had while working at Rockland? Not specifically like as a principal or as an admin, but even like coaching or teaching, because I mean you've been with Rockland pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of them, and every year, and Mr. Thompson just does a great job of creating memories for students.
Yeah.
And so I think as a staff, we also have those markers, those memorable times, usually around either graduations or maybe the faculty follies that we put in. Some of the appeals to me, because I taught here for 2 years when I got it, and then I went to Granite Bay for 2 years, because I knew I needed to see the way other schools worked, and then I came back. And then that's when really my career kind of accelerated. But and just a little bit about the teacher leadership, the collaborative process that Rockland High School has is very laborious, but it's so essential to empowering a staff to be part of. Yeah. And that's one of the most memorable experiences, or the keystone is that we used to have staff meetings where we would go round and round about what's the best learning methods, and are we focusing on learning or are we focused on grades? And the beauty of Rockland High School is the systems we have in place, if done correctly, focus on student learning. Yeah. I would say technology, AI, and the pandemic have not done that a real favor, and that maybe we haven't evolved as quickly as we could or as nimble as we could. to make sure that we're still focusing correctly on what student learning should be.
Mm-hmm.
Just futuristic. I'm excited about the future of education because I do think AI and technology and the digital imprint is going to force education to change what is required for learning and what's essential learning. And I'm kind of off on a tangent here,
No, you're
but,
fine.
It's all fine.
but those types of thoughts, those types of conversations that we have in staff meetings or in small groups, I think are some of the richest because that's what's going to pave the road for the future.
Yeah.
The other beauty of Rockland High School, and you ask about the most memorable moments, is that I really, I do believe that we're an institution of leaders here. We have a bunch of people that, that really are going to invest not just in our school, but in the students, in our community, because that's where their intrinsic values lie. And so to have those rich conversations about what education is going to look like and are we really putting our efforts toward the best work, in student learning and what that means now, I think is very different than what it was 10, 15 years ago when we knew that it was a mark of content. Content isn't king anymore.
Yeah.
It's about processes. It's about finding those critical thinking skills. It's all of that kind of deeper learning.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this is kind of going to be a bit opposite from like memorable things, but like, what are some of like the challenges I guess you faced being principal, and like I guess how do you like navigate them per se? Because I know like what is it, the coming in of like just like technology and stuff, that must have like been a slight of a challenge, like you kind of mentioned.
Yeah, the real hard one, and I would say again in being a group of leaders, in 2015, in the spring of 2015, we had a staff meeting where some of our staff members shared because they had students that were Rockland High School students. Their children were Rockland High School students. Mm-hmm. And 2 or 3 of them were, actually it started with our art teacher at the time, it was Miss Hayes, shared a portrait of one of her AP art students of what anxiety looked like to her. And it was the first time we really had, as a staff, kind of heard about the amount of anxiety that our students were experiencing. This was in the spring of 2015. And then 3 or 4 staff members shared and were very emotional about the experiences they had with their students and the amount of anxiety that they were experiencing. And so we started preparing ourselves for this anxious generation, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And we were kind of leaning into it. And then over the next 5 years, we had 4 suicides on our campus. So that was a challenge. And actually, the first one happened just a few days after graduation, when I would be coming in as principal. That was in 2015. And little did we know, the conversation we had 6 weeks before was already manifesting itself on our campus.
Yeah.
And not in the ways, and then it just kept repeating itself every so often. And that that we were living in a world where, taking your own life became an option for students. And it was just devastating to our staff because we've invested so much in this school.
Yeah.
So I'd say the teens' mental health, which is directly connected to cell phone use. I pick up my phone because if you look at when the smartphone was introduced in 2008 and the anxiety levels and mental health of students, they are on the exact same trajectory.
Yeah.
So that this is rewiring students' brains very differently that we as a society have not kept up with.
Yeah.
And so that alone has been, I think, our biggest challenge, and why we were kind of at the forefront, I'd say, because we started in 2018, trying to take phones out of the students' hands, at least during class time. And I do think at some point, that these will be monitored or limited more until 16 or 18. Yeah. Australia's trying that right now with social media, just because they've seen the devastating impacts of what the digital world can do with students.
Yeah.
And that the brain is actually being wired differently than maybe, few previous generations.
Yeah.
It's kind of a deep answer there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'd say that's has been the hardest thing, and we've always had that at the forefront at Rockland High. And I'd say it goes back to even our core beliefs, because the best way to combat that is that we maintain and being a school of connections, and that one of our highest priorities is to connect students with somebody or something on our campus. Yeah. And we know that if a student connects to somebody or something on our campus, then their chance for success increases exponentially. We just have seen it over and over and over. And so the first task is to get freshmen, and you usually have about 9 weeks for freshmen to really get them connected in. It's just a critical time to have them find somebody or something that they can belong to, and have a trusting adult that they can belong to on our campus. And that has been our strength. That's why we've put so many resources into having a vibrant activities program and a vibrant athletic program, where you have hundreds of students connected to somebody or something. An incredible VAPA program, right? 75 clubs on our campus, ways for students to connect. When they connect, then we can combat this something.
Yeah.
Kind of another off subject,
for sure.
Deep answer.
But yeah, just like going off that, I feel like our school, especially compared to even other schools in the area or stuff, we have such rich programs. But would you say that's one of just slightly going off of that, what would you say is just your biggest achievements you'd say as principal? Because the way I've heard about Rockland, maybe from alumni, from 10, 15 years ago, it's changed in many ways, not bad ways, but in so many positive ways. Our programs just keep getting better, our counselors, our teachers. But yeah, what do you feel is one of your biggest accomplishments or achievements?
Well, I would say there's much more of a balanced approach. We really want to have something for every student. We realize that sometimes other programs don't get highlighted as much as they could. And we can always improve on that. And that's one of our goals. Yeah. But I would say, another one of our core beliefs is high expectations. And you just mentioned that word, so that we want all our programs to achieve it at excellent levels. That's what our students' potential is. And that's really what I believe is our community's expectations for us.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of that, it takes three things to make great educational institutions. It takes amazing students, which we know we have here. It takes an incredible dedicated staff investing in their kids, which we know we have here. And then it takes a supportive parent and school community. And we have all three of those. And when those three are in unison, all things are possible. Yeah. And we've seen in recent history when one of those gets a little bit out of balance, it doesn't function as properly. Mm-hmm. And so all three of those, when they're working together, just is very harmonious, and I would say a key ingredient to that. And so you asked kind of what was specifically during my tenure on that. I would say kind of the balancing of that, that we respect students and their opinions, and there's a place for that. The same with our staff, and the same with our parents. All three of that is a partnership. We need students to buy into what we're doing. We need staff to continue to invest, and we needed our parents to support.
Mm-hmm. All right. So my next question for you is, you've been at Rockland High School. You've been in kind of this I would say this kind of community of schools, because you went to the middle schools, you went to like close other high schools. In your time, like in the education system in general, has there been like one student or one staff member or like one admin that like has really impacted you?
I mean, I can think of a couple faces, but I would say, and as I reflect on retiring, the biggest thing I would want to say to everybody that I've come across is just thanks, because education is about sharing and sharing ideas and sharing experiences. And, you know, for that reason, I just feel incredibly fortunate to have had spent with such great people, just good people. There was one student who, it was actually when I was a teacher, and when I was actually teaching on an accelerated 4x4 where you do a full year and a half a year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a little bit faster pace. So sometimes you finish one unit, you know, halfway through the period, and then you start on the next unit. So you usually end with some type of unit test. I was given a test was over. I collected the test, and I was ready to start my lecture, kind of fussling with my papers back here. I could hear some kind of chatter in the classroom. And I look back, and 3 girls are sitting in the back of the room, and one has an F, the other has a U, and the last one has an N. And they wanted to have fun, right? And so I look up, and I'm ready to give my lecture, and I look up, and it's fun, right? They wanted to have fun. And so from that, I think I learned that school needs to be fun, right? We need to have fun. That was kind of the motivation behind the school carnival that we put in 4 years ago, was that we wanted students to come back and have fun. We hope that students have fun every day in their classes. There should be a level of that enjoyment. School needs to be a place where students want to come to. They're going to show you how much they care about your class when their butts are in the seats. That's what was told to me in the very beginning. That's the same with just about anything, that we want them to come to class and want them to come to school. There should be something and somebody there that they're looking forward to every day. And I would say, you know, that's the other part about that teen mental wellness, is that maybe schools haven't been those places. But what I would say is that our data has shown that even with that students still wanted to be here. And so that another one is a bonus and a just a great thing about Rockland High School.
Yeah.
So,
what was the other part of that question? Was there 2 parts?
It was just staff or student.
Okay.
So student
that
was fine, yeah.
That was student. And then, you know, there've been so many different administrators, or sages, I call them. You know, one of them was the first mentor that I had when I was doing that assistant principal thing back and forth, Marge Crawford. We call them Margisms because she was just kind of very wise. She had done it for 37 years.
Yeah.
And she talked about that human connection, you know, making the relationships you developed with people are the most important thing, because we may not always agree, or we have disagreements on everything. But as long as you've established that relationship based on positive regard and respect, that you may not agree, but you're going to respect each other for who you are as a person in the end, that all is possible.
Yeah.
So those I think are the 2 things.
Yeah. You really talked about just like having like student staff connections. I wanted to ask you about like you and like when you were in school, did you ever have like that one teacher that like...
I did, and I'd say my best friends were not best friends, but the people I could confide in the most were a lot of my coaches, just because that's who I gravitated to. We grew up in a very small town. Our entire school was 235 students.
Whoa,
that's crazy.
So it was tiny. But you know, it was good and bad. It was good because you got to do a lot of different things. It was bad because it was just so sheltered. It was an agriculture community down in Fresno County, one of the poorest schools in the area. But it was, you know, that was my experience. So nothing like Rockland High School, which again, I just feel so fortunate to be here to work with such great people.
Yeah, totally. So sort of moving into like the retirement process and stuff like that, what would you say is one piece of advice you would give to whoever your successor is?
Just keep developing and empowering that teacher leadership that we have on campus. Kind of back to what I did my project on, is I really do believe that, yes, it takes, good administrators. It really takes good and great teachers, and to empower them to lead and to have those processes and that collaborative processes in place to get those to work together. And I am for those reasons, I am super excited for Rockland High School.
Yeah.
I think there are tremendous teacher leaders here that will be able to make Rockland High School thrive. I think there'll be some learning curves over the next couple of years just because of the amount of turnover there will be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that the foundation is solid, and the core beliefs are solid, and our system is solid.
Yeah.
To really to continue the path of excellence.
Yeah. I don't want to ask this question, or I do want to ask this question, but you don't have to answer it. Do you have any ideas on like who might be your successor? Just asking for a friend, of course.
Nothing that I could mention right now.
Okay. Fair enough.
But yeah, just like as you prepare for like your retirement coming up, like what are just like some hopes you like, things that you like wish to see? Like maybe you like come like to watch a football game, or you see something in the news. I don't know, but like what are just like some hopes and aspirations maybe you'd want to see in Rockland High maybe 10 years from now, 20, 50?
So 10 to 15, I think at 10 you'll start to see how education has changed.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take at least 10 years to be able to put systems in place wherever it is that we're evolving with AI and technology, or the digital world. And I would hope that it kind of gets back to some of my core beliefs and things that I mentioned, that there's more emphasis of what we do in the classroom on the connections that we make and how we're interacting with each other.
Yeah.
And with the learning, because it's not so much the content itself, but it's how you're applying that content, how you're interacting with others about that content, and are you having the right conversations to validate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about, and I know in math you've probably heard about the productive struggle, how it builds the brain differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like that productive struggle still needs to take place, but is that what we do in the classroom?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the questions that I think need to be answered over the next 10 years. I would say that that's a piece of it. Can you repeat that question again? There was something else I was gonna.
Maybe like what you'd want to see in like the future for Rockland.
Like aspirations that
you have.
Or like
you hope
when
to
you come
see.
to a football game, or just anything like that.
Yeah, and I guess I would want to always put student engagement at the forefront. So you mentioned football games, for example. You have.
Thank you for listening to the podcast live from M5. If you'd like for more content like this, please visit rocklandmedia.org. Thank you.